Revealed, 10 spine-chilling true horrors from Alaskan small towns that haunt and curse the living. Sarah clutched her daughter's hand tightly as they stepped into the eerie embrace of Willow Creek. The chill in the air felt alive, whispering secrets that pricked at the back of her neck. Shadows danced beneath the towering pines, each crackling branch sounding like a warning. What had she done? This was supposed to be a fresh start. But the weight of her parents' dying breaths lingered in the air, heavy and foreboding. Mia looked at their new home, its once cheerful yellow paint now muted and peeling. Creepy, she said, pulling her jacket closer. Sarah could only nod, feeling chills creep up her spine. Mrs. Thompson, their neighbor, was a ray of sunshine, the very definition of small-town hospitality. Her smile seemed to bloom just as unnaturally as the flora around them. You'll love it here. Just don't stray too far into the woods. They can get wild. Sarah dismissed the comment, laughing it off. Charming, she thought. But it didn't take long for the charm to wear thin. Flickering lights began to plague their nights. Whispers floated through the open windows, ghostly breezes that carried an unsettling melody. Is there something out there? Mia asked, eyes wide with dread. Sarah brushed it off. Just the trees. Just the wind. But that wind carried stories. Chilling stories. Tales whispered amongst friends of disappearances that haunted the town, devouring the frightened souls of those who ventured too close to the forest's heart. As Sarah lay awake, her heart pounding in the dark, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next morning brought no solace. Mia vanished without a trace. Panic gripped Sarah like a vice. Mia, she screamed, her voice echoing back like a mocking ghost. Neighbors exchanged glances, but Mrs. Thompson simply smiled, her eyes glinting with something dark beneath the surface. The woods can be tricky, she said, her voice laced with an eerie cheerfulness that made Sarah's skin crawl. Desperation drove Sarah to uncover everything. Legends buried deep within the town's roots spoke of sacrifices made to appease spirits lying in wait. The word sent chill bumps cascading across her skin. Mrs. Thompson was hiding something. People murmured tales of families with ties to the town's dark rituals, families like hers. Panic twisted her stomach. Urgency gnawed at her insides. With each truth unearthed, Sarah raced through the dense forest, the air thick with foreboding. Shadows beckoned, and a figure emerged, a rugged fisherman with eyes hardened by haunting memories. You need to listen, he urged, voice low and tattered as if pulled from the abyss. They believe in a pact with dark forces, sacrifices for peace. That's what the disappearances are about. Fear intertwined with the suffocating dread of discovery as the trees closed in around her. In that moment, the haunting truth settled like frost in her veins. Maybe her own bloodline was bound to this cursed legacy. Would she sink or fight? The trees watched, and the whispers grew louder as darkness cascaded over Willow Creek. Heart pounding, Sarah turned from the fisherman, her hope fraying like the edges of an old, tattered quilt. The forest loomed menacingly, alive with shadows that seemed to pulsate and whisper her name. Glancing back, she saw the man's haunted eyes shimmer with urgency, but the gravity of his words weighed down all reason. What pact? What sacrifice? With a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah sprinted deeper into the woods, branches clawing at her as if trying to pull her back. She needed answers, and as she stumbled through the underbrush, something rustled behind her. The woods were alive, and she was no longer welcome. Mia, she shrieked, voice raw, desperation quaking her resolve. The birds stopped singing, as if the entire forest held its breath, waiting. Unnerved, Sarah pressed on through the maze of towering trees. Each step deeper felt like stepping into a nightmare, where the light hardly reached and shadows flickered with malicious intent. That a faint giggle echoed, and Sarah froze. That laugh was unmistakably Mia's. Mia? She called, voice trembling. The giggle faded into silence. replaced by the rustle of damp leaves, the very sound sending shivers down her spine. Sarah's heart raced as she followed the sound, urging her feet onward despite the dread that gnawed at her thoughts. The forest opened into a small clearing, illuminated by a sliver of sunlight that broke through the dense canopy. In the center stood a decrepit swing set, rusting chains creaking in rhythm with the oppressive silence. And there on the swing, was her daughter, swaying slowly back and forth, her small frame almost ghostly in the dim light. "Mia," Sarah shouted, relief flooding her veins as she rushed forward. But as she did, the air thickened, and a chill brushed against her skin. Mia's head tilted up, but her eyes were blank, devoid of recognition. "Mommy," she said in a chillingly sing-song voice that sent a jolt of terror into Sarah's chest. "Mia, please." She reached out, but the ground beneath her seemed to shift. The swing's creaking morphed into a twisted melody, echoing whispers that spoke of ancient pacts and bloodlines. Suddenly, the shadows around the clearing surged, twisting and contorting, forming shapes that darted in and out of the light. Sarah stumbled backward, eyes wide with terror as the woods seemed to close in. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice hissed, unmistakably hers but warped, a grotesque mockery of her own. "Stay away from her." Sarah screamed, panic clawing at her throat. The whispers morphed now into a cacophony of laughter, dark, mocking, sinister. The shadows wavered, and figures faded in and out, faces contorted in pain, their mouths moving but no sound escaping. Waves of darkness pulled her toward the ground, and she fought against it, pulling her daughter with her. "We need to go, now." She grasped Mia's arm, but the child didn't move. Stony and uncaring, she just stared, eyes vacant and unblinking. The rug of reality began to unravel. "You must understand," the whisper wrapped tightly around her, leaving her breathless. "She is one of them now." The air grew colder as Sarah's mind raced. The townsfolk knew. They all knew. What had they done? With despair burning in her chest, Sarah swung back, toward the trees, a sudden instinct kicking in. There was no way she would leave Mia behind. Not like this. She turned back to her daughter, heartsick determination flooding her veins. "Mia, listen to me. We are leaving." But as she grasped Mia's hand, cold as ice, the shadows closed in, and a wave of dread washed over her. Would she fall victim to the darkness too, bound by some unbreakable curse? The trees shivered with anticipation, echoes of madness whispering around her. And just as hope flickered to life, something sharp pierced her leg, and everything went black. "What have you done?" she heard the haunting voice say again, just before slipping into darkness. The woods held their breath, but something was coming, something ancient and terrible. The pact was being renewed. Would Sarah become the new keeper of their dark secrets? Sarah gasped, her lungs burning as she clawed at the darkness, desperate to escape its suffocating grip. It was colder now, an all-consuming chill that gnawed at her bones, pulling her under like quicksand. But then light. Slivers of bright white cut through the haze, blinding her. She blinked as she struggled to focus, the warmth slowly flooding back. "Mia," she cried, the name torn from her throat. Her heart thudded painfully against her chest as her vision cleared. She was sprawled on the forest floor, her leg throbbing where what had pierced her. Panic surged. Her eyes darted around the clearing, desperately searching. "Mia?" Silence answered her. A rustle nearby, and her heart jumped into her throat. And then she saw them, figures lurking at the edge of the shadows, eyes glinting like predatory cats waiting for their prey to make a move. A voice echoed from one of the figures, deep and menacing. "You seek her, but can you protect what little remains? Get away." Sarah scrambled to her feet, blood pounding in her ears. The pain was sharp, but it was the fear gnawing at her that fueled her resolve. She could feel their gaze, cold and invasive, dissecting her soul. "Mia, where are you?" The absence of her daughter pressed heavily on her chest. Each whisper of the wind seemed to mock her, taunting her like a wicked melody. "Your child is chosen," said the voice, a haunting whisper that surrounded her, echoing within the confines of her very mind. "You have come to reclaim what was once yours, yet you only bring forth the curse upon yourself." Sarah's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" "I'll fight. She is my daughter." "Not anymore." The voice intoned, thick with sorrow and malice. The shadows thickened as they closed around her, a cloud of darkness dancing with a life of its own. The abrupt rush of overwhelming despair knocked the wind out of her lungs. She has embraced the legacy. This is her true home now. A shimmer of hope flared as she thought of the fisherman's words. The woods, the packs, the bloodlines, they all intertwined in a web of horror thicker than the fog that hung above her. I will not give up, Sarah shouted defiantly. I will find her, and I will bring her back. An unnatural laughter rang out into the night, chilling her to the bone. Then prepare for a reckoning. The air shimmered, vibrating with energies that were at once unnatural and ancient. With sudden clarity, Sarah gripped her leg where the sharpness had pierced, focusing on the heat pooling within. Recalling the brief warmth she'd felt earlier, she poured her will into the pain. The shadows momentarily hesitated, recoiling as if scorched by an unseen flame. It worked. For a split second, she could move freely. Mia, she screamed, pushing past chunky branches that reached for her like skeletal fingers. The world spun, darkness devouring more light until it constricted around her. The clearing twisted and warped, as if the very forest was alive, eager to keep her within its illusory grasp. Then, as she stumbled through the tangle of roots, she felt the whisper of something familiar brushing against her mind. Mia, my love. The sound broke through the cacophony, pure and clear. Hope pulled at her heartstrings, stronger than the shadows. But as she ran, the laughter returned, hauntingly close. You seek your daughter, but the price must be paid, it sneered. Will you sacrifice yourself to save her? Sarah staggered, doubt creeping in. She had to choose, face the shadows alone or become a part of their curse. The weight of her daughter's absence pressed down, and she clenched her teeth, vision blurring. I will find you, Mia. But as she dove deeper into the labyrinth of trees, figures shifted in the corners of her sight, dancing just beyond reach. The darkness was circling now, relentlessly pursuing. Would she dare make the ultimate sacrifice? And what awaited her when she did? A rustling sound echoed, eerily familiar, sending a tremor through her core. Mommy Mia. The call beckoned through the shadows, drawing her forward, yet the swirling darkness seemed to seep too. The very path she must take. As she broke through the final branches, her heart raced with both hope and fear. What lay ahead would unravel everything she thought she knew. But at that moment, all she knew was the sound growing louder, the haunting whispers urging her on. Join us in that instant. A single thought struck her like a lightning bolt. Was it a rescue or a trap waiting to ensnare her? With resolve strengthening her heart, she pressed on into the heart of the unknown, knowing one thing. In this world of shadows, the truth may be far more terrifying than the darkness itself. What awaited them on the other side? Branches clawed at Sarah's skin as she barreled through the dense forest, her breath ragged and shallow. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Join us. Join us. It wrapped around her like an invisible net, pulling her deeper into the heart of fear. Mia, she cried again, her voice cracking. Desperation tinged her words, echoing back at her with a morbid echo. She couldn't stop. Her limbs felt heavy, burdened by the weight of dread that shadowed her every step. Just ahead, in the thickening gloom, something moved. A fleeting shadow darted past, too fast for her to make out. Mia? In that moment, everything around her fell into an eerie hush. The world stilled, and she could hear her own heartbeat pounding loudly in her ears. Then, soft laughter trickled through the branches, a chilling sound that froze her in place. Mia. The words slipped through clenched teeth, almost strangled. No more cries. Mother. A voice echoed, sharper than glass. It was impossible to tell where it came from, but it was undeniably Mia's voice, yet altered and tainted. It danced on the edge of her consciousness, taunting her, seducing her towards danger. Join us. A shiver racked Sarah's spine as the shadows began to congeal into figures. They emerged from the darkness, their forms shifting like smoke. Their eyes glimmered with a grotesque light, reflecting a hunger she couldn't fathom. They were the same creatures she had sensed earlier. Were these the guardians of this place? Protectors of a secret too dark to behold? Let her go? Sarah's voice rose above the whispering fury until it broke, her throat raw. She's just a child. Better to save yourselves than hold on to the past, another figure replied, its voice laced with the charm of sweet deception. What was her name? Mia? Stop. she shouted, but as she did, a strong gust whipped through the trees, playing sinister melodies on their branches. The shadows danced gleefully, and she felt the pull of their wickedness, a visceral temptation to surrender to the dark. Fighting every instinct, Sarah spun around and sprinted again, heart racing, blood pounding in her ears. But no matter how fast she moved, the darkness trailed her, as if it were written in her fate to remain in its grip. The laughter enveloped her once more, louder and then fading like the last fragments of sanity. Choose. The voice boomed suddenly, ominously surrounding her. Do you wish to reclaim her? The cost is high. You may even lose yourself. A pulse of fear gripped her. What would it mean to sacrifice everything? Would it bring Mia back or leave her in unending torment? Reveal your heart, shrieked the shadows, a cacophony that filled her mind. Reveal the depth of your love, and we will show you the truth. Sarah felt a knife-like chill digging deeper into her soul. Images flashed before her. Mia laughing, the joy in her eyes, the sweetness of her voice. But those memories twisted, replaced by visions of misery, the little girl cloaked in shadows, consumed by darkness. No, Sarah screamed, halting as more figures emerged, gathering in a circling mass. Around and around her they closed in, chanting her fears, her regrets, until she could no longer tell if they were inside her head or outside in the real world. Mia, as fate lies in your hands, Sarah. Choose wisely. Desperation clawed at her throat. She felt herself teetering on the edge, wavering between light and dark. What would her choice summon? Salvation or destruction? With a surge of adrenaline, she lifted her chin and cried into the void. I will find her. I will do whatever it takes. The shadows halted, their mirth turning to deathly silence. A stillness settled, thick and suffocating. Then, a low, rumbling chuckle broke the tension, shaking the ground beneath her feet. Then prepare for the reckoning. Before she could react, hands cold and clawed grasped at her from the edges of the darkness. She fought, but the shadows were relentless, pulling her back, dragging her further into their cold embrace. With every ounce of strength, Sarah jerked free, but something sharp scraped against her arm. A voice slithered through her consciousness. You will meet her again, but first, face the truths buried in your heart. Sarah stumbled, visions distorting around her. A blurred memory, a heart-wrenching cry. She sank to her knees, breathless. Mia? But amid the chaos, something shifted. A faint glow peeked through the veil of shadow, flickering like a distant promise. Could it be hope, or another illusion taunting her? You must choose, Sarah, the voice hissed from the darkness. Will you free her from the curse of this realm, or bind her forever to its depths? As her heart ached with indecision, she clutched her head, the cold shadow closing in, suffocating all hope. What awaited her in the abyss? Would she dare dive deeper, or would she run from the truth waiting beneath the surface? With one final breath, she dove into the whispers, determined to seize whatever truth or horror lay lurking beneath the shadows. What would she uncover in the heart of darkness? The shadows twisted around Sarah, thickening like fog, wrapping her in their cold embrace. She felt the weight of their whispers bearing down on her, swirling in a tempest of temptation and dread. It was as if they were drawing from her fears, feeding off the very essence of her despair. Mia, the name barely left her lips, a fragile plea. In the distance, the faint glow flickered, a beacon amid the consuming dark. She moved toward it, one foot in front of the other, as if battling against an unseen force trying to pull her back into the depths. The laughter intensified. It morphed into a cacophony of voices, all emitting from countless figures emerging from the darkness. Their faces were contorted, mouths twisted into grotesque grins, eyes glinting with malice. Come play with us, they urged, the tone enticing and sinister all at once. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. No, it erupted from her like a fire. She shoved past the weight of their presence, driven by the singular thought of Mia. Each step toward the light became a war, shadows clawing at her, whispers clawing at her mind. Suddenly, a figure lunged forward, blocking her path. It was a ghostly version of Mia, but her eyes were sunken, her smile warped. Mother, the voice echoed, smooth as silk, but edged with something foul. You don't want to leave me, do you? Sarah staggered backward, heart pounding, torn between desire and fear. What would happen to you? The figure laughed, soundlessly, as if mocking her. I belong here. We all do. Join us, Mother. It's what you always feared. No, Sarah yelled out. She felt the shadows lurch, pulling at her, knotting around her ankles like hungry tendrils. She could hear them whispering secrets, fears long buried rushing to the forefront of her mind. Images of failure flickered arguments, missed moments, a life filled with choices that had brought her to this place of torment. Face the truth. They taunted, their laughter blending into a monstrous symphony that engulfed her. Do you love her enough to let her go, or will you chain her here with you forever? With a primal scream, Sarah fought against the agony threading through her heart. This wasn't Team Mia. It was an essence twisted by the shadows, a cruel imitation beckoning her into the fold. Determined, Sarah surged forward, igniting her resolve. Mia is light. She deserves the sun, not this darkness. The flicker of light dimmed, and for a moment, she was blinded by a flash of regret, one bad decision, one moment of weakness. But out of that came a voice, steady and stronger than the whispers. If you want Mia, fight for her. With newfound clarity, Sarah plunged into the flickering light. The shadows screamed, a wail that rattled the very air, clawing at her as she surged through. As she reached the glow, it swallowed her whole, transporting her away from the clutches of despair. Sarah opened her eyes to find herself on the edge of a vast, tranquil lake, shimmering under a full moon. The air was still, cold enough to bite her skin, but it felt different. It was pure. Mia? She called out, hopeful yet scared. Echoes rippled across the water, and for a moment, she thought she heard her answer. A soft, delicate voice. Just beyond the trees, shadows loomed again, flickering at the edge of her vision. Then, from behind the trees, a figure stepped forward, small and familiar. Heart racing, eyes wide with a mix of hope and dread, Sarah took a step closer. Was it Mia? Had she truly emerged from the darkness? But before she could approach, the shadows lunged forward, encircling the figure, whispering, tempting. The illusion of safety shattered as their laughter resumed, now triumphant. Will you leave her, Sarah? Or will you burn with her? Terror clawed at her throat as she realized the choice wasn't over. The truth hidden in the depths of her heart demanded more than she was willing to give. Choose. They roared, their fury an inescapable gauge of her resolve. As the darkness swirled closer, Sarah faced the shimmer of reflections on the lake's surface. What she saw reflected back was a past she understood all too well, her failures, her guilt, her love twisted with pain. She felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. The choice wasn't just for Mia anymore, it was for herself. Let me save her, Sarah whispered into the night, her voice tremulous but firm, but a chilling wind settled around her. The shadows slithered closer. In the confusion, Sarah understood at last. She was bound to face the depths of herself before the realms would yield their answers. As the darkness enveloped her, she closed her eyes tightly. This is just the beginning, she thought fiercely, heart racing. What awaited her in this deeper level of darkness? Would she finally understand the cost of love? There was no turning back now. The darkness tightened its grip, swirling around Sarah like a storm gathering ferocity. She felt its chill seep into her bones, a cold realization dawning. She was trapped in a place crafted from her own dread. The ghostly image of Mia hovered just beyond the shadows, her tiny frame engulfed by darkness, turning it into a malevolent cloak. Mommy, why wouldn't you save me? The girl's voice twisted with heart-wrenching innocence. It echoed through the stillness like an eerie lullaby, igniting a desperation within Sarah. Mia? Panic surged through her, thick and suffocating. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. Not leaving? The shadows erupted in laughter, a guttural sound that clawed at Sarah's sanity. You've always left, time and again. Why change now? Images flashed before her eyes. Birthday parties, first days of school, quiet moments of driving when she should have connected with her daughter but instead had retreated behind the walls of her own thoughts. Each memory pricked at her heart like 1,000 daggers. No, she cried, shaking her head. You are not my daughter. You are just a reflection of my failures. The shadows twisted angrily, tightening around her legs. She could almost feel their icy grip squeezing the air from her lungs. Face it, Sarah. This is all you have left, the image you now cling to. Feed it, or let it die. In her mind, she pictured Mia laughing, a vibrant child full of sunlight, not this shadowy mockery. You're not real, Sarah shouted, fighting the urge to buckle beneath the weight of despair. You're a nightmare. The laughter morphed into shrill screams, a dissonant symphony that filled the air. Face your truth. Let go of the past. You brought this on, and now you can't escape. Then Mia's figure shimmered, the shadows battling to keep her caged. Mommy, I'm scared. The words wrapped around Sarah like an iron band, tightening until she could hardly breathe. Don't be afraid, sweetheart. Sarah pushed against the shadows, feeling warmth flourish deep inside her. Clarity broke through that numbing fear. I will fight for you. Gathering her courage, she lunged toward Mia, shattering through the enveloping darkness that clawed at her. Sparks erupted around her as she stepped into the light. Reflexively, she reached for Mia, but the small figure flinched backward, ensnared by the gathering shadows. Mia? The sheer terror in her voice echoed across the lake, bouncing off the wooded shores. The swirling darkness stilled for a heartbeat. Then, with renewed rage, it swarmed around them, and Sarah realized it was feeding on her fear. You have to let go of the pain. Came a whisper, softer, more insistent. Only then can you truly save her. But that voice felt alien, a strange intrusion among the chaos. What does that even mean? She shouted into the void. I'm not abandoning her. Are you ready to fight? The shadows hissed back. Or will you remain shackled by your own regret? As they lunged toward her, she felt the space around her collapse, the weight of anguish and longing crashing down like a tidal wave. Let her go? Sarah screamed, her voice raw, pouring every ounce of defiance into the air between them. Tendrils of darkness recoiled, hesitating, sensing her resolve. Choose, Sarah. They howled. The wind whipped through her hair, chilling her to the bone. Before her, another figure emerged from the depths of the trees, a silhouette that sent a jolt through her heart. It was a man, tall and jagged, with shadows swirling at his feet. She couldn't see his face, but she felt his eyes bore into her. Who are you? She shouted, the question tinged with fear. The figure stepped closer, and she could sense him absorbing the shadows surrounding him, pulling them in like thin smoke. I'm what comes after, he said, his voice a low murmur. You must confront the truth, Sarah, or perish with the darkness. As he reached for her, the shadows recoiled, swirling violently with hesitation. And she had to wonder, was he a savior, or yet another deception? The world around began to tremble. Time is running out. They shrieked, frantic. Could she face this specter and discover the truth within? The question hung heavy in the air, echoing through the suffocating darkness. Will you embrace reality? The man urged, eyes slowly revealing swirling depths of nothingness. Or will the shadows consume you both? In that moment, Sarah realized her fight was intertwined with something much darker than mere regret. A horrific truth awaited that would shake her very existence. Where did the shadows end, and where did she begin? As panic set in, she felt the ground giving way beneath her feet, leading her deeper into the heart of the abyss. Would she emerge unscathed, or become yet another whisper among the shadows? The earth trembled beneath Sarah's feet, the landscape shifting like a living nightmare. She felt herself sinking, the ground morphing into a black hole that threatened to swallow her whole. Help! She screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the roar of rushing shadows. The figure, the man with the swirling depths for eyes, stepped forward, reaching ever closer. You have to let go of the pain. The voice echoed again in her mind, haunting and cryptic. Stop! She cried out, feeling the darkness clawing at her more violently with each word, as if it were alive, thriving on her fear. She knew she couldn't succumb. She had to hold on to the warmth of her memories of Mia, even if they felt distant and fragmented in this dire moment. Remember the laughter, she murmured to herself. Remember the joy. But their fading echoes were drowned out by the shadows, gnashing like hungry beasts. You feed us, they hissed, their grip tightening around her throat. Your despair is our sustenance. The man stood his ground, pushing back against the engulfing darkness. You must face the truth of your past, Sarah, he called, his voice strong and steady. Without facing it, you can't save her. He didn't look menacing, but his presence was unsettling, a riddle cloaked in shadows. She squinted through the darkness, attempting to see his face. Just as her gaze sharpened, everything shifted, bending away from her will, as if the very fabric of reality despised her resolve. Confront what you've buried deep, he continued, his tone almost tender. Only then can you pull back your daughter from this abyss. Sudden clarity struck her like lightning. She had buried her pain so deeply after losing Mia. Every moment of guilt had compounded, casting her into this bleak nightmare. It was time to undo the paralysis it had caused. Mia, she whispered, grounding herself in the memory of her daughter's smile. You're the light in my thoughts. I can't lose you. Not again. The shadows wailed, twisting in agony at the mention of the name, while the man's intensity grew. Now, embrace your truth. Sweat dripped down her back as she fought to quiet the terror thrumming in her chest. The shadows swarmed closer, their presence heavy and suffocating. But within that pressure, she felt something rise, the flicker of defiance igniting within her. I remember the day you were born, how I held you close, how you filled my heart with laughter. The clarity sparked her voice into a force. You are not a figment of my failures. You are my daughter. The shadows roared in response, thrashing as if struck, but Sarah pressed on, drawing strength from her love. I won't let this darkness take you from me again. You deserve to be free. Her words carved a path through the chaos, and as if pulled by her conviction, she charged into the dark tide. The figure watched intently, shadowy tendrils whipping around him, but he remained unwavering. In a moment that felt infinite, silence fell. The shadows hesitated, caught between her fierce resolve and their own hunger. What is happening? Sarah panted, feeling the ground beneath her begin to stabilize, but the pressure was still there, poised to snap. Suddenly, something shattered within the darkness, a fragment of memories bubbling to the surface. She glimpsed visions, Mia laughing, dancing in the sunlight, reaching out to her mother, and then, the screams, the ones she hadn't allowed herself to remember. No, she gasped, realizing what she must face: the accident, the moment she had tried to erase from existence. The horrific moment that led her to this nightmare. With dread climbing her spine, she steadied her breath, preparing to confront the truth she had avoided for far too long. I faced darkness before. I can do it again. Then, the shadows roared in fury, swelling like a storm ready to unleash chaos, their wrath palpable, their true form finally revealing itself in flickers of haunting faces watching her intently. Mia is lost. There is no saving her. They shrieked. Let me save her. Sarah screamed back defiantly, feeling her memories coil and twist around her like chains. But within their agony lay her way out, and she wouldn't let it go so easily. As she faced her fears, the man began to step backward, his demeanor shifting as if the unfolding truth were forcing him into retreat. You have to tread carefully, Sarah. Suddenly, as the shadows closed in around her, she felt a pulse of desperation surge within. Would she collapse into her trauma once again? Or would she fight to reclaim Mia from the depths of her own past? Darkness loomed, and a chilling laughter echoed all around. But in that moment, she felt a spark deep within, a surge of bravery ready to reshape her reality. Would this fight against her past cost her everything? Or could she emerge victorious from the nightmare she herself had created? The shadows screamed louder, their shapes writhing angrily, as if they were the embodiment of all her buried fears. Sarah steadied herself, feeling the ground shift beneath her in an unsettling reminder of her reality. The man stood a few paces away, his eyes drawing her in, flickering with an otherworldly light as they held a promise of freedom, of truth. Mia, she shouted through the chaos, clutching her heart as the memories of her daughter surged forward, vivid and painful. I won't let go. I refuse to let them take you. But the shadows were relentless, dark fingers grasping at her sanity, pulling her deeper into an ocean of guilt and regret. Each scream was a dagger, each twisted face a reminder of her failure. Panic gripped her chest, sending a shiver of cold sweat trickling down her spine. Face the truth, the man urged again, his voice cutting through the despair. She could see him straining against the shadows, something fierce in his demeanor. It's the only path to your daughter. With fury boiling in her veins, Sarah clenched her fists, forcing herself to remember the warmth of Mia's laughter, the light spilling from her smile like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "You don't define me," she growled, her voice growing stronger despite the tightening grip of shadows. Suddenly, a vision unspooled in her mind. Mia, lying in her arms that day, the laughter unraveling like silk, then gone. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, the weight of that moment crashing down on her. "I was supposed to protect you," she cried, her voice cracking. "I failed you, Mia." The word clawed its way out of her throat like a desperate plea. "I love you. I'm so sorry." The shadows halted, confusion flickering through their mass. Every whispered accusation seemed to dim, momentarily stifled by the power of her confession. "Feel the pain, Sarah?" the man urged, his figure somehow grounding amongst the chaos. "Only when you confront it will it lose its hold. You must release the guilt." Sarah felt a tremor rippling through her. What if facing it meant losing herself? What if she couldn't bear the truth? Yet, deep within, she knew that holding on to the guilt had suffocated her spirit. To face it, to search the depths of her sorrow, might be the only way to save Mia from the darkness and from herself. "I will remember," she whispered, her heart pounding. "I will remember everything." Suddenly, an unholy roar erupted, swirling like a storm. The shadows lunged, face after face emerging, each one more twisted than the last, from the depths of her nightmares. They leaned closer, pushing into her mind, their voices piercing her thoughts. "You can't escape us. You're one of us," they screamed, a cacophony ready to drown her. "No," she shouted, standing firm. "You're wrong. I am not lost. I will not be defeated." With resolve hardening like steel, she focused on that radiant core of love, the only truth worth fighting for. "Mia," she shouted again, louder this time, armed with the strength of a mother's love. "I'm coming for you." The shadows recoiled at her ferocity, and for the first time, sorrow crept into their screams. But alongside it, a wicked laughter emerged from their depths. The terrifying sound foreshadowed an evil she had not yet faced. The ground rumbled again beneath her as fissures opened up like waiting jaws, ready to swallow her whole. "Keep going, keep pushing," the man encouraged, his voice unwavering. Suddenly, time seemed to freeze. Looking into the swirling abyss before her, she recognized figures struggling to break free, twisted memories gasping for salvation. Faces of the past blinked into existence, memories she had buried even deeper. In that moment, staggered by dread, she realized they were the loved ones she had lost. "What do you want from me?" she screamed, terrified. "Face us," they howled, their voices echoing in anguished harmony. "Face the truth." In an instant, the shadows lunged forward, consuming the light around her. But this time, instead of backing away, she dug in her heels, heart racing as memories crashed like waves against her. "Defenses. Did you think you could forget?" The voices echoed, rising above her own defeated cries. The last thing she felt was the cold clutches of despair enveloping her, but through it, a last spark ignited. She remembered Mia's laugh once more, igniting a wildfire in her chest. "I'm not weak," she whispered fiercely to herself. But just as she was ready to unleash her full power, it came crashing down, a vision of the moment they had left the house that day, laughter trailing behind, and then the sound of shattering glass. Sarah accepted. Her eyes flew wide, realization dawning she had created this very darkness. "Face the truth," the shadows cried, their voices blending with a passionate, terrifying melody. What lay in wait as Sarah braced herself to confront the memory she feared the most? Would she embrace the echoes of her past, or would it tear her apart once and for all? The shadows recoiled, but not for long. Like a wave, they surged back, morphing and twisting, merging into the shapes of Sarah's fears. At the forefront loomed the figure of Mia, eyes vacant and lost. Sarah felt a jolt of terror at the sight. "Mia," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. But the girl didn't move. She remained a haunting silhouette inside the darkness, a mirror reflecting Sarah's failures. "You didn't save me," the shadows hissed through Mia's lips, each word sliced deeper than the last. "Stop," Sarah shouted, straining against the weight of guilt. "I tried. I was there." "I know. You weren't," they countered, their voices now a chorus of grief and anger. "You were supposed to protect me." For a brief moment, the shadows dimmed, replaced by flashes of Sarah's past. Images rushed through her, vivid and relentless. She saw her frantic search for Mia, the heartbreak in her chest when she found only silence. She remembered the car crash, how the world had tilted off its axis. The shattering glass echoed in her mind like a death knell. I was there. I swear. She pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, sending her sprawling. The man, still almost resolute, reached for her. Hold on to the love, Sarah. It's your only weapon. She gathered herself, rising to her feet as the shadows writhed and laughed, a malicious symphony ringing in her ears. Each mocking note tempted her to surrender, to drown in despair. But she wouldn't. Face the truth, the haunting chorus resumed, this time laced with a hint of a sorrowful melody, urging her to follow them into oblivion. No, she gasped, shaking her head frantically. I refuse to let you take me down. I will not be your prisoner. Wrapping her arms around herself, she plunged deeper into her memories, ignoring the shadows tugging at her, determined to find that flicker of joy that bound her to Mia. But the shadows shifted, losing the semblance of loved ones and morphing back into monstrous forms, grotesque and feral. They taunted her, shapes flitting in and out of focus, faces she recognized twisted in eternal agony. Do you think you can just forget what happened? They jeered. You built this cage, Sarah. Your guilt provides the bars. Suddenly, another vision forced its way through, one she had buried the deepest. It was the night before the accident, filled with laughter and promises. Mia's eyes sparkling like stars, her small hands gripping Sarah's tightly. Mommy, we'll always be together, right? The memory shattered her resolve. Yes, my baby. Always. She screamed into the void, grasping for anything that might anchor her to the love they shared. With newfound urgency, Sarah focused on that warmth, letting it flow through her. She connected the radiant memory of her daughter to the present chaos. I love you, Mia, she yelled defiantly, willing every ounce of that love to overpower the malevolence swirling around her. You are my light, and I will fight for you. The shifts of shadows slowed, the laughter faltered. But just as hope flickered, an icy chill swept through the air, snuffing it out. Foolish girl, a deeper voice boomed from within the darkness, resonating like thunder. Love has no place here. You think you can save her? The earth rumbled, cracks spreading wider around her. It felt as if the ground would swallow her whole any moment. Panic surged back, icy fingers wrapping around her heart. No, I will fight. I have to fight, she cried, the terror of losing Mia drowning all thought. The man trembled beside her, his voice strained, but his gaze unwavering. Just a few more steps, Sarah. The truth is near. Embrace it. But what would she find if she dove deeper into the truth? Would it be salvation or destruction? With the shadows inching closer, ready to bind her once more, she knew that one decision loomed ahead, the choice to confront the very source of her grief or remain shackled to her misery. What awaited her in that dark expanse? Would she finally unveil the truth, or would it consume her? The choice felt heavier than the chaos, the shadows writhing, whispering promises of despair. Sarah, the chorus beckoned, seductively soft. Except that the screams began again, muffled by the malevolent force threatening to overtake her. Would she find the strength to bear her soul? Or had she already lost herself to the shadows? The shadows surged forward, a hurricane of despair and swirling darkness. But Sarah stood firm, rooted to the ground, grappling with the stirring storm inside her. The haunting chorus echoed, but she refused to submit. No, I choose to embrace my love for Mia. As she clutched the memory of her daughter, a warmth flickered deep within, irrefutable and ethereal. She closed her eyes and focused, visualizing Mia's laughter, the way it filled a room like sunlight spilling through a window. She deserves life. She deserves freedom. In that moment, the shadows shrieked. The mocking silhouettes froze, hesitating as if the very essence of Sarah's love carved through the darkness like a knife. You're lying. You're trapped in grief. They snarled, their faces contorting with rage. But Sarah felt a rush of energy pulse through her, her heart thrumming like a kettle drum. You have no power over me. The resolve in her voice shattered the air, rippling through the darkness. I will not be buried beneath my regrets. I will fight for what matters. With every heartbeat, she poured love into the air, weaving her memory of Mia into the fabric of reality. The shadows writhed, voices of anguish mingling with their immense fury. Choose, Sarah. Each figure held tight to her fears, but they were losing their grip. The weight of her sorrow was lightening, lifting from her shoulders as she unleashed a guttural cry. I choose love. I choose to confront the truth of my past. The ground shook, and the man beside her locked eyes with her, urging her on. Face it. You're stronger than the shadows. Suddenly, the darkness recoiled, splintering like glass, the clutches of despair fracturing under the heat of her determination. Mia. The word escaped her lips, infused with clarity. I'm here. I love you. I'll always love you. In that instant, the forest shimmered with a blinding light. The ethereal glow expanded, driving back the darkness, illuminating the twisted figures that had tormented her. The sounds of chaos faded into an echo as she pushed through to reclaim her daughter. And then, she was standing on solid ground, surrounded by soft grass and the comforting glow of twilight. The shadows melted away, leaving behind whispers of surrender. The air felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Mia? Sarah breathed, eyes wide with hope. A moment passed, and there she was, the familiar silhouette, bathed in a warm halo of light at the edge of a clearing. Mama? Her daughter's voice flowed like a soft melody. You came for me. Always. Trembling, tears spilling from her eyes, Sarah raced forward, arms outstretched. Mia stood there, innocence reflected in her wide eyes. I'm so sorry for everything. I promise I'll never leave you again. As Sarah wrapped her arms around Mia, a wave of pure warmth enveloped them both, the shadows dissolving entirely into a shimmering mist, leaving only love behind. The surroundings shifted into a brighter realm, a place where the pains of the past didn't fester. Together, they stood in the light, where echoes of laughter and love hung in the air, intertwining with the wind. I'm free, Mia said, her small voice breaking the newfound silence. We're free. I'll always protect you, sweetheart, Sarah replied, a soft smile gracing her lips. The warmth of love seeped into her chest, enveloping both of them like a cocoon. But the truth of their journey resonated deep within. Healing was a choice, and it was a path they would navigate together. They would remember the darkness but embrace the light, learning from it rather than letting it chain them. For every fear faced would pave the way for brighter tomorrows. Hand in hand, Sarah and Mia turned back, walking toward the horizon, leaving behind the shadows that no longer held sway over their hearts. That bond, their love, was the truest magic of all, proving stronger than the darkness that once threatened to engulf them both. The woods were silent now, shadows fading like memories that had finally been put to rest. Together, they stepped into their new beginning. It's time to face the light ahead and embrace the journey of healing. Right now, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You must smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm and push our stories to even more people. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who desperately need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.